Thank you very much and good morning. I'm from the Rand Water Institute, which is a subset or a function within Rand Water. And this is really what we're talking about is that I think last year we presented, and I'll give a quick recap because if we get to episode 2, we must give a quick recap of episode 1. It was a year ago. But I will touch on a number of topics. There are a number of slides, but I'll go through it quite quickly. It's really the key messages that matter. And at the end, if I have time, I want to tell you a little story which has nothing to do with Rand Water, but with why we are, or the place that we're in, if I have time to do so. I think just a recap, the last year's episode 1 was about how we implemented knowledge transfer and sharing in the Rand Water Institute. Now, the Institute is about innovation and research, enabled by collaboration and what we call knowledge transfer. And what we said was, in essence, you must balance your thinking and your action. Don't think about the best strategy for 5 years and do nothing. You stagnate, they will lose interest. That's the end of you. Don't act without thinking. That's not a good thing either. But get that balance. So you have to do a quick start, 3 months maximum. Get a strategy. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to change it a year later. Get an action plan. Choose a focus, even though it's a small part of the organization. Choose something. Make a difference. Finish the work. Show and illustrate the value. And what we said last time, the principle and the lesson learned was, if you do it that way, you can show value, you'll get more commitment, you'll get more resources to do all the other things you want to do. So don't come and say, I don't have the resources, I can't do anything. Do what you can with what you have and you'll get more. That was the principle behind it. The question now was it true? Because this is a year later. And I'm trying to show through what I'm presenting today what happened in the meantime. What were the things that we are now being entrusted with and whether it actually worked that way or not. The first project that came our way was a very strange one. The board said we want to leave a legacy. And the legacy will be we want a South African university. And that's not all. A few years later, I want an African university. And we all looked at them and said, what on earth are you doing? You're a utility. But that's the legacy that I wanted to leave. Of course, we had to first unpack then, what is this thing called legacy? Because maybe I can do something else. So we looked at the value that they wanted, and I think we got an understanding what they mean by legacy. We did our research, our investigations, the compliance requirements, the time, the cost, the possibilities. And I think when we were all done, while we were doing this, we had to show them, look, we are thinking about your requirement. But in the meantime, let us just get involved and show that we are actually influencing the research already through involvement in universities, the professorial chairs, etc., which you can argue is a type of university. And when we were done, we came up with an answer. And the answer was very straightforward. The first thing you do to create a university is not to create a university. You are a utility. You are not a university. So, but we still wanted to give them the value they asked for. They want that legacy, and it's good. So we opted for something slightly different, and we said, let us rather go and find and collaborate with a reputable university that has a good reputation in the African continent. And we will find that water specialized unit within them, revive it or change it or create it, and we will sponsor it, and this becomes your university with Rand Water's name on it. And that way we were able to sort of give them what they want, but in a much cheaper, lower risk, shorter time frame. Because in all fairness, if you start something new in South Africa, by the time you finish, the board will be replaced. It will be a new board. There's no legacy from that. So I think this is something different, and we said we'll do it in South Africa, and then we'll go to SADC, and then we'll become an African role player over the 5 years. And we'll start with research, postgraduate research. That's where knowledge is created. And that's what we do at the Institute. So we'll start there. We can extend it as we feel like, but I think that was an alternative approach that we've then proposed. And I'm happy to say that we've done that. By the 1st of July, we now have our Rand Water Research Development and Innovation Hub at UP, or University of Pretoria. And there's a lot more work to be done, but it was a good start. So I think we'll be able to give them the value they're looking for, the legacy they want, even though it's not a university on its own. The next that I want to highlight is all the work we've started doing after the initial year in terms of the dissemination and the publication work. When we've done quite a lot of work in terms of publishing things on the internal, external, social media, etc. And we also received some money and approval to do the first combined Rand Water Institute RDI symposium of over 2 days, which went well. I think it went down very well. We have all the professorial chairs there, all the outcomes of the innovation pilot projects. I think there were about 300 people or so that attended. So I think we've received approval to do quite a lot more than what we've done in the past. Also for publication, we publish what we can, but we want to do more. So we are now looking at this e-magazines, e-newsletters, journals, periodicals, type of level of publication. Not necessarily on our own. We don't have to do everything ourselves. We will work with someone like the newly created our CISA, which is Water Utility, the Water Institution Association. So I think that here also, although we've done a lot, there's a lot more to do, and we're getting approval to do more than we did last year. The Resource Center, well, I think the basis for the Resource Center, we wanted something to be the home for knowledge transfer and knowledge sharing in the Institute. But we realize that we have a good library. In its essence, that's the same topic, the same discipline. They just acquire from outside and distribute internally. We create internally, you want to take it outside. But that's the only difference. So we've established it, and they have actually done very well themselves in terms of the various knowledge resources that they have available to Rand Water. And we've added to that now what we call the Knowledge Transfer Office of the Institute. And we renamed it the Resource Center, a bit of a revamp in terms of the intranet. Now, in our case, the whole intranet SharePoint base is a knowledge portal, but this specific one, I think, is actually doing and looking good and doing well. So we've been given the library by the leadership to say, yes, please take it and do what you can do and what you need to do with it. There were also some interesting projects coming our way that came our way already. The Rand Water has a rich heritage in the context of South Africa. I know there are a lot of older organizations elsewhere in the world, but we have quite a good and a rich heritage from 1903 to now. Look at our records, and we have people here from the Records and Archival Services in Rand Water. There's an immense amount of knowledge in that archive, and we've been established 1903, the first property 1924. So it's a long history that we have, and because of that, oh yes, so by the way, that thing in the middle is the first meeting of the first board. We still have it. We must keep it. And it took place on a Saturday, so that'll teach boards that they can meet on Saturdays. Now, the first two projects that were given, the one is, the government is setting up, or is now publishing a book, which I've just done, about what the performance for the last 30 years is the dawn of democracy. And Rand Water, the Institute was given the job to make the contribution about our contribution to socio-economic development, which means our story over the last 30 years. That was given to us, and we've done that. The next thing they said, we are 120 years old, and now 122. And there was a book for the first 100 years. There was a book for the 110 years. Someone must do a book for the last decade for the 120 years. And that was also given to us, which we then did and is finished. So I'm not sure when this is going to be published, but this trilogy of books. These are the projects that were given to us, and the latest one is the Rand Water Museum that we have to put together. There will be a virtual museum as well, which I can help with, but the intention is a physical one. And there are not many in South Africa. There's one here in Cape Town somewhere that is linked to some of the dams that were built. And that's it. I couldn't find another one. Internationally, there are quite a lot of water-related museums, but not in South Africa. That picture in the middle, just wanted to show you that that's what a pipe looked like long before Rand Water existed. There's pieces of wood glued together, there's some sealant and some wire around it, and that was a water pipe. We have a small segment of that still with us, which I thought was quite amazing. I don't know the whole story around it, but there's some interesting artifacts that we do have, apart from the records, of course. So this is the project that we will next do, although our thinking about it is not really only about heritage. We want to start there, but we also want to educate people about today and tomorrow. You want to influence behavior. That seems to be the latest trend with museums. It's not about the past only, it's also about the future, which makes it more interesting. In the middle, let's say, for example, to educate you. I'm not sure how many people know the Crocodile Dundee movies. Give away your age if you do. But there was one scene in the place where he went to New York and someone tried to mug him. And the guy took out a knife and said, I've got a knife. And he looked at the knife and said, that's not a knife. And he took out a dagger this long and said, this is a knife. Eh? So that's the only scene I remember. The rest was quite boring. But I feel like that when I talk about water and water pipes. Your pipeline at home, pipe is this thick. That thing there that people are standing in is a pipe for us. Okay, it's a 3 meter diameter pipe. This is the type of pipes we have from the Vaal River to Johannesburg, where we deliver about 4,500 million liters a day of clean water. That's the infrastructure. So I don't think people are exposed to what this organization is really about and the magnitude of it. But that's the type of thing that I think one can educate the society about today, not necessarily the past only. So that is the new project. I wanted to touch on something called the Academy, although this is not us, it's not the Institute, but it's a sister unit, and we are working very closely with them. They've done well over the years. But the latest project that was given now, we will work together with them where needed, is to say, well, in addition to university, we want a technical school as well, so create one. Establish a technical school for the water sector called the Rand Water School, and do the operators, artisans, plumbers, further education and training. So the two will complement one another very well, although they focus on different levels. So that's a new project that's being done now. If I look at the things I've told you about what we are doing, not what we finished. It's good to finish something. You have to finish it in order to show value. But if I look at what was being given to us since we spoke the last time, I think they've entrusted us with a lot more than what we had. If I just look at the size of the institute, it's now twice the size than when we started. I look at the money that we're given. It's also twice, more than twice. If you look at the resource center, guaranteed 10 million to do their subscriptions and books. You look at innovation, more than 10 million a year to do their part. University, here's another 10 million, please don't do it. The collaboration part, people went over to the Stockholm Water Week last week to represent us. And everywhere else. You want to sponsor someone? Here's the money. As soon as you have shown your value, as soon as you've shown your contribution to the company, I don't have a major problem investing in you. But before that, then it will be difficult. I want to do knowledge management. Give me 10 million. No. But if you go and show what you can do, even on a small scale, this is the basis to grow. And I think I've seen that. I want to, just some lessons learned. Maybe just look at the last three. The first one is obvious. The collaboration part is key for us. We don't have to do everything ourselves. There are many organizations in the world that are specializing in something. We have a collaboration network of organizations worldwide that we can work with, and we do. Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, we have got Hydrology Institution in China, we've got PUB as a water utility in Singapore, the universities, etc. The next one is reputational, is really, it's a real value. It's not something that's a soft issue. And if not only your value that you can show in your reputation is knowledge management, but if you can assist in improving the reputation of the organization through the sharing of knowledge that were created by, let's say in this case, innovation and research, they start to be considered as a thought leader. And as soon as that happens, you get more opportunities. And the last one is very practical. I think my PowerPoint skills has taken us up to here, but it's not good enough anymore. Really. Now we get to the point where we have to ask for assistance to say if we're going to do publication to the external world, we must be professional. And that's not me. So you should really make those people your best friend. I know it's about the content, but you must first make it attractive. Someone actually open the document with the link to go and read it. And that helps. So I think we will have to make use more of them for it to become seriously professional rather than basic things we've done thus far. And those really are the new lessons learned, or additional lessons learned. So overall, I think to answer the question, I think the approach was 100% correct in our context. We have something similar that was done. When the Innovation Hub was created, everybody wanted a 100 million rand building, state of the art. The answer was no. Go and do what you can and show us that it's worth investing in. And they've done it, and they've done amazing projects. I wish I had the time to show you those, but they really did amazing things that speaks directly to the business needs. Half of what they've tested have been adopted and implemented. And I think they've done by 24 pilot projects over the last few years. The same happened with the university. We say, we're going to create this university, but we're not going to build a building of 200 million rand. Show us over the next 5 years what you can do, and then we'll reconsider. So I think the answer in summary is yes. What I said last year was true. It actually worked out that way. And hopefully you agree when you look at what has been given to us thus far. The last piece, the little personal story, is nothing to do with Rand Water, and I'll be quick. But it has everything to do with Franschhoek. I thought the mayor would touch on those things, but no. But not to give you a history lesson, but the reason a bunch of French people arrived here, it really comes back to the religious wars that took place in Europe a long time ago. You had the Catholic Church, you had the Protestants. The Protestants were called Protestants because they were protesting. Hence the name. So there were a time when people actually started having a war there between them. I think mostly the northern parts were more focused on religious freedom, but there were some countries that were not, where there were quite a bit of conflict. And I think in Spain especially. But there was a time then where these Protestants were given an option to say, convert or leave. We'll send you to a place that you've never been before, and the people were sent to North America, some other areas, and also here in the tip of South Africa. Tip of Africa, they then exiled them to here. Hence, the French Huguenots arrived here in drips and drabs, but this is the place called the French Corner for that, and that is what the monument is about down the road. If you go and visit it, it's about religious freedom. At my home, I've got a book. It's a Bible that came through my family from my mother's side. She was a descendant very long time ago, of course, of French Huguenots. And that Bible came down the line, and I have it now, and the story behind it, which is corroborated by, look it up, so I'm happy to say I'm not lying. It's a true story. That when those people were told to leave, they were said, you may leave, you may live, but you must leave your Bible behind. And then they said, not a chance. So they took these Bibles and they put them in wet cloth and put it in dough, and they baked the bread. This is how they smuggled it on the ships. And it's not only once, it happened quite a lot. The Bible don't look that good anymore, because if you can bake it in an oven, it would also not look that good anymore. But it's still there, and there's an amazing story around it there that I think gives it more meaning than just being a book. Now, I think the key there is really we have this heritage. We have these artifacts. We just have to ensure we understand it and protect the story around it that gives it meaning. And though this is all about heritage, and I think this makes sense to talk about it here. There were two other things that I wanted to highlight. The one is the symbolism behind it is quite nice for me. You can imagine when someone arrives here in the tip of South Africa and they sit around, they're breaking bread, and inside you'll find the bread of life. That is the symbolism around it that for me is very nice. The second one is looking at this heritage and looking at the genes involved. Given that those people were a big part of the Afrikaners, I still don't know why people think why Afrikaners are so hard-headed. You have it, the genes and the heritage, they are hard-headed. They left the whole continent and their family. They baked a bread with a Bible inside it and were sent off to a foreign country and continent. They will not convert. So maybe tongue-in-cheek, but now you understand why we are so hard-headed people. We have no choice. It's our heritage. So I think thank you for that. Thank you for listening. So I'm done. Thank you.
Stay for one or two questions. Can we take one or two questions? Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Bekker. Again, two questions. First hand pose. Any other question? Yes, no? Such short.
Good morning, Dr. Bekker. It's Dr. Benny Palani. Long time. Good to see you. And thanks so much for sharing this wonderful perspectives in knowledge transfer and retention efforts. A while ago, about 5 years back, I did research, as you know, within the state-owned enterprise. And one of the objectives was to look in terms of identify key organizational barriers to effective tacit knowledge risk management in state-owned enterprise. And among those, barriers, that were identified, and of course, due to Rendote in that, bigger scheme of things, is that, fixed-term contracts, employment equity, red tapes, knowledge and friendly knowledge structures, knowledge and friendly cell culture, and many other more, where people see, knowledge as a source of power, and other things that, were contributed too much of knowledge thickness within the state-owned enterprise. And I still believe that, this remain largely the same in most, if not all, state-owned enterprises. Do you mind if you can just share the picture in terms of how you've addressed some of these barriers, which are contributing towards ineffective management of knowledge risk within the state-owned enterprise? And the second part of my question is around, I think that's a point that you articulated earlier in your slides around, Rendote, daily precision in terms of societal impact and sustainability in terms of empowering, other state-owned enterprises within the sector, within the subject, and of course, to a larger degree within the global south. If you could just share us in terms of our South African state-owned enterprises, especially the water sector. We know many of them are struggling with knowledge and losses, and of course, they're also struggling in terms of the governance issues. Using that, model of best practices, how do you intend, to make sure that these success stories get embedded in each and every state enterprise within the country, so that we can, of course, address and, of course, solve the lives and the livelihood of our society? Thank you.
How many hours do I have? Seriously, but let me talk quickly about some of those things. I can't talk about all of them. Yeah, the idea of a 5-year contract is not good for knowledge retention. But that's reality at least for executives and organizations. There are other reasons why it's like that. But they also bring in some knowledge from outside, you can argue. Majority of people below that, though, are not on contract. So I don't think we can expect 5 people on contract to determine the knowledge of the organization. It's for the other 98%. There's knowledge is power, but there's a question later in the panel when we talk about what are the key things to do to ensure people will share. And maybe I'll leave the answer for that panel, so I don't have to talk about it now. The other one is the sharing in other organizations. I know there are already things in place, like the Water Services Forum, which is what Rand Water is driving, but it's really for the whole water sector, where we share knowledge about different things. It's not a single topic. The one was digital transformation that I attended. I was part of that, and innovation. And there are other topics that they periodically will have these forums across organizations in the sector. And then you also need to talk about to the Department of Water and Sanitation, which is now also started off their knowledge management program and the knowledge management committee to look at knowledge management within the sector, not in the department, which is part of or in response to the Department of the DPSA, their knowledge management strategy and directive that was issued. So I think there seems to be work already in place and work still to be done that focuses on the sector and not a single organization. So hopefully that will result in addressing some of the things you're talking about. Hopefully I try to keep it short. Otherwise, you have to manage me.
That's good. Okay. I didn't see any other hand. Is another hand online? Anything online? Nothing online. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.